Welcome to episode 191 of the Grip Strip Podcast, the victory chasing edition of the Grip Strip Podcast. My name is Philip Matthew. I'm your host, and I'm with my co-host, the iRacing Indy 500 champion, a computer genius, a gentleman, and a scholar, and someone who's sporting the old school Jacksonville Jaguars hat while holding his breath because Trevor Lawrence is not at 100%. His name is Joshua Fine. What's going on, brother?
Yeah, well, we'll see how Trevor Lawrence is doing this week. But yeah, that was a little frustrating to see at the end of the game yesterday, which I attended at Jacksonville, seeing the Jacksonville Jaguars defeat the Indianapolis Colts convincingly. So yes, the iRacing Indy 500 champion was in attendance to see the Indianapolis Colts lose, and the Jaguars have now swept the Colts for the 2023 season in the regular season so far. So yeah, that was good to be there for that. Of course, the dope hat as well. So glad to get that one. And yeah, the racing this weekend, of course, just Las Vegas Cup and Xfinity, and now we have one playoff driver locking his way into the Final Four. So yeah, ready to get into it.
Yep. Oh, yeah. So, Trevor Lawrence. Yeah, we're gonna see what's going on with him. Heading into Thursday Night Football, we'll talk about it in the football segment here later on. Monday Night Football going on right now. The Cowgirls playing against the LA Chargers of Anaheim, Alameda, and all the other residing counties. Next week's they're showing a preview for next week, which will be San Francisco going to Minnesota and US Bank Stadium. Tale of two teams right now in terms of their situation, but we'll talk about that more next week or maybe later in the show. Larson gets the victory, goes and locks himself into the Final Four, and good circumstance for him to possibly get that second championship, coming off a week where he ended up winning his high limit sprint car series championship, beating his buddy Rico Abreu. Goes and gets the victory in the final race, but Kyle Larson gets the championship, and then also gets his rookie orientation done for the Indianapolis 500. So getting that all situated with McLaren. So that's been a pretty busy and fruitful week for the man they call Young Money. We'll go also into and all the key players that were there in the Cup race at Las Vegas yesterday. We'll get into Riley Herbst winning his first Xfinity race. I guess hell is freezing over. Riley Herbst has actually won a race, so Stewart-Haas Racing dominated for the most part. Herbst hit the wall. Both guys that won the races this weekend at Vegas hit the wall, and their cars became faster. That seems convenient. We'll get into Herbst winning, what it means in regards to the points, because that means with two races to go, two guarantees that two drivers are going to make it in on points no matter what, as long as two playoff drivers win the next 2 weeks. We'll get into week 6 in the NFL. Jacksonville wins, but mentioned Trevor Lawrence gets dinged up there with a knee injury. I heard knee injury, and then I'm like, well, this has been a year in terms of fantasy for me, having Trevor Lawrence and having Joe Burrow on my dynasty team. It's been a disaster. And then, having we went heavy Jaguars on that dynasty team, and that hasn't gone so well. But, hopefully he'll be all right. Hopefully they hold him out because it's the New Orleans Saints. It's not like they can do anything on offense. So I think it'll be a defensive battle on Thursday Night Football. The 49ers lose Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, and for a portion of the game, Trent Williams lay an egg against Cleveland Browns and PJ Walker, who tried to give him the game. And the worst game that Brock Purdy has played in his young career. It was due to happen. I had a bad feeling about this game for the whole week. And it just kind of makes sense that they ended up going there early game on the East Coast, 1 o'clock game, so 10 a.m. start for them, coming off of the Cowgirls win on Sunday Night Football, and they laid an egg. Jacksonville solidifies their position in the division, while the Houston Texans are chasing them with C.J. Stroud and company. So, thing to look at there. No undefeated teams left in the NFL. So, for all those Miami Dolphins fans that still hold on to that deal from '72, they can all celebrate drinking seltzer water or whatever they're drinking with whatever teeth they have left. Getting all the other things going on in the NFL as well. And also fantasy, where my fantasy teams this week have been taking a beating. Petit Le Mans opens up the roundup. We have the Whelen Engineering Cadillac and the Wayne Taylor Racing 10 car. Yet another instance of those two cars going against each other at Petit Le Mans. And yet again, the 10 car falls short. Wrecks in the process, trying to go and pass the 31 of Pippo Durrani. They end up winning the championship. The 60 Meyershank Racing Acura wins the race overall. We'll get into all the results of that. And also the Michelin Endurance Cup. NHRA at Dallas saw a record for women racers and enders that Maggot Moron becoming the winningest female racer in NHRA history, and by getting her win in Pro Stock. And then the Tony Stewart Racing duo of Matt Hagan, Leah Pruitt winning and getting the double up in Nitro and taking the points lead with 2 races to go in the NHRA countdown. MotoGP, Moto2 was at Indonesia last week, and they'll be at Phillip Island this week. Pecco Bagnaia bounces back from a bad qualifying. Jorge Martin had gotten close within 3 points, but fell in the race, and Pecco Bagnaia wins. So retakes that momentum, got that momentum back, and puts himself back in the driver's seat to win a second consecutive world championship. Then we'll talk about F1 Academy. They've been off for a while, so we'll get back into the points and what that's all about, since they'll be racing at COTA. And give a nod to the British Touring Car Championship. They raced, I think, a week ago or so, but we'll go and give a reference to them, and also some other news and notes in the world of racing this past week, last few days. And then we'll do previews of the U.S. Grand Prix at COTA. It'll be a sprint race weekend again. And then we'll preview Homestead, the triple header. Josh will let us know all things going on in the world of sim racing in his segment, and then we'll close the deal. All right, so first things first, we will go into the NASCAR Cup Series South Point Hotel and Casino 400 at Las Vegas. And it saw Kyle Larson win both stages and lead the most laps after starting second. 133 of the races, 267 laps. Christopher Bell tried to make it interesting late in the race. Finished 0.08 of a second off his old buddy from the USAC days. But Kyle Larson dominates at a track that has been one of his better racetracks in his career. Gets the grand slam in that sense. And goes and gets the victory that will now lock him into the Final Four with a chance to possibly get a second Cup Series championship. Kyle Larson, the winner over Christopher Bell, Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski, Ross Chastain, your top 5. Brad Keselowski led the third most laps, so 3 drivers in the top 4 basically led the whole entire race. Outside of that, you had 35 laps. Yeah, 35 laps led amongst 4 other drivers, being Will Byron, Dennis Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr., Dennis Hamlin, and J.J. Haley. Blaney, who was 6th initially, but we'll get into that momentarily. Will Byron, Tyler Reddick, Martin Truex, Denny Hamlin, Chris Buescher finishes 11th. The lowest of the playoff drivers in the Drivers' Championship. William Clyde Elliott, the second, wrecked his car in practice and had a bad day, and which he never really got anywhere, and ended up finishing 32nd. So his chances of making the final 4 for the owners is based on him getting that elusive victory here in 2023 for the man that is known as Chase, trying to get he'll win his most popular driver award, as he always does every year, but chances of him winning are slim and none right now. But yeah, I mean, Larson gets the victory. There wasn't a whole lot of action. Only 1 caution in stage 1 outside of the stage break, or 2 cautions, 1 for a stage break. 2 cautions, single car incidents in stage 2 before the stage break. All single car incidents took place there. Not a lot of, I mean, there was 20 lead changes amongst 7 drivers, but as I said, the vast majority of the race was led by 3 drivers, Larson, Bell, and Keselowski. Larson was fast off the truck. The only thing he didn't get was the pole, or else he really would have had everything. But Larson, Josh, has the momentum, and he has the opportunity to become the 4th driver in the last 6 years to win this race and then go to Phoenix and win the championship, which usually means winning the race itself. So 3 of the last 5 years has been the case. Prior to Sunday, we'll see if that'll become 4 out of the last 6 years here in a couple of weeks' time for Young Money.
Yeah, I mean, let's go back though first for Kyle Larson leading up to this win. Obviously, he had a big week with his win in the high limit sprint car series, winning the championship there in his own series, and then going out and testing an Indy car at Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the rookie orientation program there, and got approved to go run the Indy 500 after meeting all the requirements and everything, and then goes out here and just completely dominates here at Las Vegas. So, if you're a Larson fan, he actually had a pretty big week there. But, in this race, dominated throughout the entire event. Go back to what he did in 2021, the first race before the championship round at Phoenix. He won at Texas back in 2021 to open up the round of 8. So definitely opportunity there now that if he does win this championship, it would continue that trend, like you said. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. We'll see how that plays out. Honestly, in our picks, last week when we were making our picks for this race, I picked William Byron, I believe, but I really, in my mind, thought, Larson could really come out to play, based on what we saw in the race in March, with Larson winning, or not winning that race, but he came close to winning that race, and then, caution came out at the last second, and then Larson didn't end up winning that one over William Byron. So, he had the car in March to do it, and now comes back in here in October at Las Vegas and goes out and just completely dominates. Yeah, he had the spin out there in the middle of the race and almost gave up the race there, but I think the wall helped him out there from keeping it out of control. But he does have that technique of being able to save a car and just lock up all four tires and hold on to it. And I think that rest of that stage, though, or that rest of that run, though, he did have maybe flat spotted there, but was able to recover, obviously, and go back and win the stage. So, Larson was able to come back from that, and they put together a good race. So now he locks himself into the championship 4, and I think he's definitely one of the guys that I think I would have had in mind to make it to the championship 4. And we'll see, who the rest of them are. But almost at the end, Christopher Bell almost got him though at the end with the run that he was on, and Larson I think just put together the last couple of laps, put together a better set than Bell did, and was able to just barely beat him back to the line there. So second closest finish in Las Vegas history, I think. I think the closest one was Jimmy Johnson versus Matt Kenseth back in 2006. So that's a I guess decent finish there, even though Bell didn't make an attempt to pass. Wasn't really in a position there to pass. So Larson obviously dominated, and then I think Bell was basically just a classic dirt race in a way between Larson and Bell, and then everybody else. So with the way the rest of the field falls out of this, William Byron led a lap and finished in 6th, and now still 5 points, or he's still on the good side to make it into Phoenix and everything. And I think if he didn't win this race here at Las Vegas, I definitely think he could be a candidate to win at Homestead. Truex had a bad sequence in stage 2 where they stayed out and then they fell behind so many laps, and there's a bit of an exchange there with him and his crew chief, but they were able to recover and get an 8th place finish. And I'll say that if Truex somehow makes it to Phoenix, it's definitely a backdoor entry into the playoffs with he's only 3 points to the good right now. So if he somehow makes it in, that considering how he's performed this entire playoff run, this is definitely a backdoor entry based on how he performed in the regular season, and probably would be one of the more fraudulent, I guess, seeds in the Final Four that we've ever had for NASCAR. So, we'll see how that goes. And then, of course, Ryan Blaney got disqualified initially, but then today, on Monday, they announced that they had rescinded the penalty, so he gets his 6th place finish back there. So, still minus 10 on points after that result, so don't really know if they'll have the speed to make it into the Final Four, but now they've rescinded it, so now he's not in that deep of a hole that he initially would have been post penalty, and now post rescind, or post penalty, or whatever, how you want to call that. But like you say, not too much happened really in the race. You had a couple of cautions there. Legacy Motor Club getting into some incidents. Alex Bowman had a spin out on the front stretch, and later on in the race, Ty Gibbs had an incident where the tire came off, so we probably expect a penalty there for his crew. So tomorrow. So now we have one guy locked in the Final Four. So definitely looking forward to Homestead and Martinsville, and we'll see if we get some surprise guy in the Final Four over the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think now as it stands for the Ford guys, I mean, granted, for Blaney, the penalty that they said there was some sort of shock issue on the left front corner, it seemed convenient, especially knowing that he wasn't a factor in the race. He didn't lead. He was, when you look at the results for him during the day, he was 6th and 8th in the stages, not leading a lap. I don't understand, why wouldn't you go, if you're going to do a random, why aren't you doing a random with I don't know, somebody who's out of the playoffs. Like, for one, I mean, why wouldn't you look at Brad? The guy has nothing to race for at that point, but now all of a sudden he's running good. And like Kyle Busch, those are two people I'd be looking at for randoms. I mean, first of all, I'd be pulling any Hendrick car on a weekly basis, but I'd also, and Gibbs car. So that's where the 5 and the 20 would go. But then the next two people I'd probably be looking at are Brad and Kyle. I guess in terms of that, when you look at the Fords, Blaney was the second highest finishing Ford. So, but I found that penalty to it stunk to me, and thankfully they rescinded it. Points wise, of course, it's still not going to be easy for him or Christopher Buescher to make it in. Early, that momentum from the summer when Buescher won all those races, I think it's kind of gone away. Blaney's been up there for a lot of the year, but it just hasn't been fast every single race, or fast enough. He did it at Charlotte. He's going to have a race. He's going to have to put 2 races together in the last 3 that are like Charlotte if he wants to win the championship. And it's high. There's a higher likelihood that that's going to come from a Hendrick car or a Gibbs car. I mean, Larson now gets the free roll for 2 weeks. Byron has been that guy for the majority of the year. And then, I mean, as Josh mentioned, Truex has been absolute dog shit the whole entire playoffs. And if he backdoors his way in there, so be it. He's been great at Martinsville in recent years. He's not great at Phoenix. The points are in his favor. But he would need a miracle to go to Phoenix and actually be a contender. He'd be making up the numbers in that Final Four. Speaking of the playoff points, as we go to Homestead, Larson takes the points lead with his 4th win of the season by 7 over William Byron. Truex and Hamlin are tied for 3rd. The difference is the playoff points. Truex has 4 more than Hamlin. Same amount of wins, stage wins. Hamlin has 1 more stage win. Christopher Bell, their teammate, is 2 points behind them. So that's the immediate battle. There's 2 points separating the 3 Joe Gibbs Racing drivers. 16 points separates Tyler Reddick and his owner and Truex. 17 points Blaney to those 2 guys, and then 23 points for Christopher Buescher there in the 8th spot. So as it stands right now, Reddick, Blaney, Buescher, all looking for that victory. Reddick going to a racetrack that over the years has been one of his best racetracks in his career, a place where he's won 2 Xfinity championships. At Homestead, you'd venture to think that that's one where he's had circled all season, especially with the way they've put the cars they put together at 2311 this year. And then in the race for 5th in points, as of now, for right now, 9th in points, Keselowski has a 25-point lead on Ross Chastain. We'll see how that all works out after Martinsville there. Okay, so we'll move forward to the Xfinity Series. Is the Alsco Uniforms 302, which sees Riley Herbst get his first career Xfinity win in his 100 they have to go into this because it's just hard to believe. 8.4 76 of Herbst was his friends.
139
start. Thank you. Yeah, I saw it same time you did. 139 start at home, at Las Vegas. 14.9 second victory, which isn't shocking. These Xfinity races on the cookie cutters usually spread out and end up being long fuel mileage type of deals. And that's what it ended up being, 9 cars or 10 cars on the lead lap. And then a further 5 a lap down. So, yeah, things got really spread out there late. Riley Herbst gets the victory, wins one stage, leads the most laps. John Hunter Nemechek from tailback again finishes second. Cole Custer started second, finished third, won one stage, finished second in the other, led the second most laps. 165 of the races, 201 laps were led by the Stewart-Haas racing duo. Then you add Chandler Smith to that mix, and those 3 guys led all but 13 laps of the race. So similar to what the Cup race was they had on Saturday. Chandler Smith finishes 4th, Sam Mayer 5th, Allgaier, Hill, Austin Hill, Bruckshot Jones, Daniel Hemrick, and Lane Riggs driving the 11 for Colleague. Rounds out the top 10. The 5 cars, 1 lap down. Myatt Snyder, Josh Berry. Myatt Snyder driving 19. Berry, Kligerman, Retzloff, and Sheldon Creed. Sheldon Creed 15th. Sammy Smith got stage points but finished 2 laps down in 17th. He is in deep trouble. Both those guys are in deep trouble in regards to their chances to win or get into the Final 4. It's interesting that Parker Retzloff and Creed are together there, since the rumors say that Paperboy is going to be getting into that wheel and engineering number 2 Chevy for RCR. So that would be a cool thing to see for those like yourself, Josh, being a big time sim guy, a guy coming from the sim world, getting into the real world driving and being in one of the biggest seats in the Xfinity series. But when it comes to there's no place like home, and Riley Herbst went out there and took advantage of a pretty clean race. There's 3 cautions in the first stage. There was a huge wreck and a red flag that was caused by Kaz Gralla blowing an engine, and then the last caution was for the stage break, and then they ran the 3rd stage green. But Riley Herbst goes out there and gets a victory soon after he had signed an extension to come back for next year at Stewart-Haas Racing. Herbst goes and gets a victory at home. It's strange things happen in Las Vegas, and by golly, Riley Herbst went out there and won.
Yeah, I mean, Riley Herbst, 139 starts, kind of reminds me of Cole Custer's first win in the Xfinity Series with Stewart-Haas all the way back in 2017 when he won there and had a 10-second lead to win that. But just a really interesting result there with how he's been struggling here in the Xfinity Series for so long, and we haven't seen the 98 car win since Chase Briscoe all the way back in 2020. And I think for a while I think you probably have mentioned how there's no way this guy should be in this car. But, eventually, I think this year he's performed, pretty well, honestly, in terms of, being able to compete on a week-to-week basis. And, they've had a good season overall. Obviously they're, not competing for the playoffs anymore, but, they've had a decent year, and, finally he was able to put it all together and just basically spanked the field, and he made it work. I think they're even talking about on Twitter, like around 70 to go, saying that the possibility of Riley Herbst winning his first XFinity race, which tells you how good that car was and just how smooth he was able to handle throughout the entire race, compared to even his teammate and Cole Custer now back in the Xfinity series. So, yeah, I mean, Riley Herbst getting out a win, and I think for somebody like that winning in his home track, where he's from, where his family has this fuel chain, the terrible Herbst. That's good for that family as well. So Las Vegas native getting their first victory in NASCAR. That's a pretty good story there. But for the playoff drivers, John Hunter Nemechek, I think he's pretty much locked in at this point. And I think for Cole Custer and Chandler Smith, I think Custer, I mean, he's got a pretty good cushion right now in points to Chandler Smith. So he's got a 15-point lead here on fifth place, Chandler Smith. So I think it's going to take a lot. I mean, things can't happen in the next two races, but I think it's going to take a lot for somebody to, on points at least, to overtake Cole Custer there for that final spot. I mean, I think we could see a surprise win from somebody like Sam Mayer or even like Sammy Smith, but especially at Martinsville. But I think it's gonna come down to probably the top four as it is, make it into the final four here at Phoenix. So we'll see what happens in the next couple of races, but I think Homestead's probably going to be a battle between John Hunter Nemechek and Austin Hill and possibly Allgaier. So I think those three cars have been the best on mile and a halfs this year, and I think that's probably what it'll look like here. But or we could have another non-playoff guy win potentially, that hasn't won yet or has won and is not competing for the playoffs anymore. But yeah, that's going to be interesting to see how this playoff ends up working out. But yeah, I think this race was also kind of similar to the Cup race, very similar cookie cutter race where things kind of get strung out, and definitely with Riley Herbst winning in the way he did, definitely did get very strung out at the end.
Yeah, and I mean, I wouldn't count out Cole Custer in that. We'll talk about it later because Cole Custer has won multiple races at Homestead in his Xfinity career. So that's something to look at. I mean, the reality of the world is we've named the top four guys in the series this year. So we come down to the final eight. We've knocked out some tougher drivers in that first round. And once you start really thinking about process of elimination amongst that final eight, you got two guys that are basically too inconsistent to get out of their own way, in Sammy Smith and Sheldon Creed. And Sammy Smith is what do you call, a lame duck there, and so is Sheldon Creed. So both of them are not going to get prime equipment. And then you have Chandler Smith, who's more than likely leaving Colleague Racing as well. So that's not really going anywhere. And then Sam Mayer's coming back next year, but he has to make up 16 points. He's minus 16. Yeah, he has to make up 16 points on Cole Custer, which is asking a lot, really. Sammy Smith and Sheldon Creed, they're going to need a win or nothing. So Chandler Smith, Sam Mayer, Austin Hill, Justin Allgaier, and Cole Custer, all those five guys, that's a lot of points you're talking about, but they're all really, they're in a nice little bunch there. So one issue for any of those drivers and it could flip its lid, or two of those guys have problems and Chandler Smith, Sam Mayer could be in the mix to go and race for the championship. but we'll see what happens with that. I mean, Nemechek gets that second place finish coming from tailback and increases his points lead by, what is it now? It's 26 points over Justin Allgaier. He's plus 47 over the cut line. Needs to be plus 61 over the cut line after Las Vegas, or after Homestead, to lock himself into the Final Four based on points, no matter what happens. So that's another 14 points. So would assume that we're going to be looking at him trying to get more stage wins, and I would think that the likes of Justin Allgaier and Custer would want to prevent that. Allgaier's won more stages than Nemechek, but this is a prime example of why he's been chasing those stage wins. If he can get 2 more stage wins, there's a pretty high likelihood he's going to lock himself into the Final Four without having to do anything at Martinsville, which becomes a carnage cup. Austin Hill, surprisingly, he's only won 4 stages this year, which is pretty crazy. I mean, that is pretty insane to think that he's only won one stage or 4 stages the whole entire year. That is something interesting to look at there. All right, let us move forward then into Week 6 NFL. I mentioned for Jacksonville, they get the victory over Indianapolis. They got to go against Gardner Minshew because Anthony Richardson had a shoulder AC joint injury and then had a concussion as well. So there's a likelihood that the rookie top 5 draft pick, franchise quarterback for the Colts, may end up being out for the season. So that was fun while it lasted, and I'm paying the price for that in one of my fantasy teams. Just to go through some of the other things, I mean, CJ Stroud and Will Anderson, the 2 rookies that Houston got in the top 3 picks, they were able to go and get another victory there over the New Orleans Saints, which bodes well for Jacksonville this week, playing them on a short week, even though they may or may not have Trevor Lawrence. The bigger story of the weekend was the defenses of both the Cleveland Browns and the New York Jets. The Cleveland Browns made Brock Purdy look seem human, after what has been a pretty magical ride so far for him sans the NFC Championship game last January. The New York Jets, Bob Saleh, go out there at home at MetLife and knock off the Philadelphia Eagles, defending NFC champions, force 3 interceptions out of Jalen Hurts. The Eagles they've been kind of 50-50, kind of an iffy proposition for the majority of this season. Being 5-1 in a lot of ways is lucky, based on how they've played on offense for a good amount of the season. Defensively, they've been pretty solid. Unfortunately, they weren't able to hold up against the Jets, but I don't think that was as much to do with the defense, the Eagles' defense, as it was the Jets' defense being able to make plays. Kyron Williams comes against big reason. Yeah, but then he just got hurt, so Raheem Mostert, Miami gets another victory, doubles up Carolina Panthers, who do not have their first round draft pick because they traded for what do you call their quarterback, and now that'll be Chicago's pick, which is likely going to be they'll have the 1 and 2 draft picks. Cincinnati Bengals win, but it was ugly. It's been that way all year, it seems. But now all of a sudden they're back to 3 and 3. So now they're in the mix once again. The 49ers I mentioned lost to whatever I'm forgetting PJ Walker. It was an ugly game. Really should have never been in that position. But, I think they were just due to lay an egg and having to go travel to the East Coast or Midwest, whatever the hell, play a 10 o'clock start was too much. A struggle for Brock Purdy. He was under 100 yards until late in the fourth quarter. Bad officiating, bad play calling by Kyle Shanahan, who once things get tight, he becomes a really bad play caller. Yet once again, another example of that. True losing Christian McCaffrey, who's basically been the offensive player of the year so far this year, and Deebo Samuel is not great, and then losing the best offensive lineman in the NFL and one of the greatest offensive linemen in the history of the league for a period of time doesn't help against a really tough pass rush. But putting a rookie kicker out there, albeit the one that they spent a third-round draft pick on to make field goal, he missed a 54-yarder earlier in the day, and then pushed a 41-yarder wide right. It was a confluence of circumstances. It was worst case scenario, and unfortunately, Niners lose. But now they have a long week. They have to go and prepare to go and fly out to Minneapolis for Monday Night Football next week, and have to recover and get themselves back on track. And then you're playing for Buccaneers past and New England Patriots. Yeah, that's Justin Fields gets hurt, so that's a huge one. As for me and one of my fantasy teams, I'm in bad shape with that. I'm going to need a quarterback. Gardner Minshew gets exposed for what he is, which is a good backup. Atlanta Falcons lose to the Washington General Commander Redskins, and so that's another one. Yeah, Tennessee had to pull the seat. Yeah. So those are just a few. I mean, it's been a crazy week in football for sure, Josh. I mean, Baltimore wins in London against those Titans. The Titans are really bad. Kansas City won, of course, on Thursday night. Closer game than it probably would have thought it would have been. It was 10.5, so I guess they covered. Commanders, I mentioned, win. Vikings win, but the Chicago loses. Justin Fields. I mentioned the Niner-Brown game. Bengals win ugly. I mentioned that. Miami Jaguars, you're going to get into it more. Houston wins that game earlier. Talked about that. Las Vegas beats the New England Patriots. The New England Patriots are in bad shape. They are dog crap. They're 2 games behind the New York Jets, and they beat the New York Jets. That's their only win of the year. The Rams beat Arizona. That Arizona was on they had momentum early to start the year, but that's gone away. The creamsicle uniforms did not help the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are 5-1. The Detroit Lions are leading the NFC North. and they're one of the 3 best teams in the NFC. You did not hear that wrong. The Detroit Lions are one of the best teams in the NFL. The Buffalo Bills won ugly, but they won. So they are a game behind the Miami Dolphins, and right now the top 3 teams are separated by 2 games right now. Miami and Kansas City are tied for they're in the mix for the number 1 seed. Baltimore and Jacksonville pick up the 3 and 4 seeds at the moment. I'm not sure with all the machinations. It's only week 6, but they're all the division leaders there. You look at Buffalo would be one of the wild cards. I think Houston is there. I mean, you have to, playoffs right now. So right now the Kansas City, Miami, Baltimore, Jacksonville, then Buffalo, Pittsburgh, and Cleveland would be the teams. Indianapolis, Houston, New York Jets, the Chargers, Vegas, Cincinnati are all outside at the moment that are at 500. So then in the NFC right now, Philly, San Francisco, Detroit. That's the order they show right now. Top 2. I don't know if that's based on whatever I have to look on NFL.com to make sure, and then Tampa Bay leads their division, which is a shithole of a division. Seattle, Dallas, and the Rams right now in for the wild card, with another 3 teams that are at 500. Commanders, Falcons, which doesn't have an offense, and the New Orleans Saints, that also is not great at all. Green Bay is 2 and 3. You have 3 teams that are 1 and 5, and 1 team that is 0 in Carolina. The NFC, you at the Chicago, the Giants, Arizona, and Carolina. Minnesota's at 2 and 4, so they're actually only a game out of second, I guess, in the division, because they're a half game behind Green Bay. And then, so they're a half game behind Green Bay for second in the division. And so that's something there. Early days, a lot of injuries going on. Things we're going to have to definitely look at as the season moves forward, because people are falling dropping like flies right now in the NFL. So, Josh, let us know what your thoughts of the game going against your old quarterback, going and being at the ambiance of being at the stadium, being there for the game itself, how that all went, and how you're feeling as you lead into a short week, Thursday Night Football against the New Orleans Saints.
I mean, first of all, Gardner Minshew going back to Jacksonville for the first time playing against them, and it was still Minshew magic, just in a different way this time, of course, because 2019 Minshew magic was running around and scoring for the Jaguars and making crazy plays, and now Minshew magic yesterday was him throwing interceptions and fumbling the ball away, and giving the Jaguars opportunities to go out and score either short field touchdowns or getting field goals. So just a little bit different way there. So that was good. Just the ambiance being in the game. I think with the way the stadium was, I mean, there weren't that many Colts fans. There's always like a pocket of Colts fans that sit out in the stands on the visitors' side. But I think it was mostly Jaguars fans. There's a lot of people there, obviously, and I think everybody was welcoming them home after being there in London for 2 weeks. So just being able to come home and be able to get a good victory, a divisional win against the team that they were tied in the division to take the division lead. So that was good, of course, and it was a good weather, not really too hot, honestly. I guess the weather's like all of a sudden changed in like the entire state of Florida because just feel like maybe a week and a half ago, you still probably like 85 degrees outside, and Sunday it was like mid 70s, throughout the entire game. In the morning it was in the 60s, and it was actually a little cold. And for me, I had to actually put on a long sleeve, which actually benefited because it was still clear. So even though the air itself is not hot, obviously the sun, clear skies, still can get a sunburn from that. And I was able to protect my arms and neck and everything, but I forgot to put sunblock on my face, so my nose is sunburnt a little bit, and the bottom half of my face that wasn't covered by my sunglasses or my hat or my hoodie, so a little bit sunburnt there, but that's all right. But yeah, the vibes were good at the game and everything. Went with a couple of friends, and so I'm glad that they were able to come, and glad that they were able to see Jaguars victory there, and be able to experience all of that, of course. But the game itself, I mean, they started out, got a touchdown, got another touchdown almost immediately after Minshew fumbled, and then got another touchdown, and they're up 21-6 at the half. But I do question some of the game management in the second half. They had a big lead, and I think they were able to get another touchdown with Trevor to Brenton Strange there for his first touchdown in his career, but as a rookie in the NFL. But I think with some of the play calling they did in the second half to try to put the game away, it's probably questionable. They had a 3rd and 1 handoff to Travis Etienne that I think it was a pitch handoff that they took to the outside, and that one got snuffed out, and I think he either made it back to the line of scrimmage or he lost a yard or two on that one. And 3rd and 1, just run it up the middle, I guess, there to close out the game. And then later on, the play that Trevor got hurt on, play action naked bootleg rolling out to the left, and ends up getting taken down for a sack. You can argue, probably have a credible argument to say that Trevor Lawrence probably should have just given up on the play, either throw it away or just slide for the sack there. But he did try to fight it out on the end of the play, and that's what led to him spraining his knee. That's the official reports. He's got a low-grade knee sprain or bone bruise or something like that. So we'll see how he is for Thursday night. But on one hand, you can argue, he needs to learn how to live to play another down in those situations. Although the coaching play call in that scenario, again, why aren't we handing it off on that play, and going up the middle or something like that, or even they had another play in the first half where I think it was either short field on 3rd down or 4th down where they handed it off to Tank Bigsby in the fullback position with Travis Etienne as the running back in the backfield, and that was an interesting formation that I hadn't really seen those players be using. But why didn't they do that later in the game and show that look with handing it off to Tank Bigsby there as the fullback? So definitely think that they probably could have chosen a better play call to try to put your players in the best position without taking too much risk, or even just using a passing play that was low risk without the chance to be exposed like that. So that's something we're gonna have to look out for later this week. If Trevor's able to go on Thursday night, it's also a short week. They've already ruled out Tyson Campbell and guard Brandon Sheriff there. So going to be interesting to see how Trevor's able to respond to this injury. Do they put him on rest and let him rest until the game against the Steelers on October 29? So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, the game itself, at least we got the win over the Colts, and we did allow them to come back and score 2 touchdowns. But it's obviously mostly garbage time touchdowns, so it doesn't really matter. But giving them the opportunity to go score with some of the play calling that they did on offense that led them to give the ball back to the Colts. If they were facing a better team than the Colts, or a team with a better quarterback than the Colts, then definitely would have to be a little bit concerned about that. But at least they get the win, and probably their most complete victory of the season so far. So at least there's that. But at the same time, the franchise quarterback potentially injured, not seriously injured, but enough where there's the potential that he could miss the game, especially on a short week. So that's a little concerning there. But fantasy wise, still got the win over Wilson this week. So Justin Fields on for Wilson. Justin Fields got ruled out early on in the game, or at some point during that 1 o'clock game. So unfortunate for him there. For me, Deebo Samuel got ruled out pretty early on. So we'll see how that looks like. But still grinding out the win, of course. And Travis Etienne got 2 touchdowns early on. So he's definitely eating that day. So now actually in fantasy for week 7, we're facing each other in the fall brawl. So good luck to you, I guess, this week. And we'll see how my lineup looks like, because I've got a couple players on bye, and then Trevor possibly out. So I have to work some strategy to finagle getting a backup quarterback possibly off the free agent bench. So we'll see how that goes. But it's going to be interesting. And one other note, they did announce at the Jaguars game that the 49ers Jaguars game on November 12th is designated as a throwback type of game, although they said that they're not going to have throwback uniforms, but they are using the throwback Jaguars logo from the 90s, and also the 49ers logo, which hasn't really changed that much, the one that they used during the 90s. That's, I think, a little bit more simpler than the one that they have now. The one they have now is slightly more, I guess, different, but it's definitely a throwback logo that they used in the 90s. So I guess from that aspect, period correct, but still waiting for the Jaguars to pull out the throwback uniforms that they used in the 90s, which I think still stand out today. That they could pull out and use as their regular uniforms today, which I probably would prefer over the ones that they have now, although I do like the ones that they currently are wearing. So good week, of course, in the NFL. Still got the Chargers and the Cowboys playing right now, so we'll see how the result of that game. So hopefully, I guess I'd like to see the Chargers win. Not really a big Cowboys fan at all, so don't really like them. So that should be an interesting game. So we'll see how week 7 goes, and see how our fantasy matchup goes. Looking forward to our fantasy matchup here in Fall Brawl that we have at least twice a year. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, definitely. It's been rough for me last couple of weeks. Lost last week, and then losing to the team that's leading the league, undefeated. Luke will be going to 6-0. Isn't going to win high points. That'll go to Vic, but still going to 6-0. And I'm going to drop to 3-3. Josh will move up to 4-2. Wilson will drop to 3-3 as well. Matt is going to move to 3-3. So that'll cluster up the last playoff spots there. Manny takes another loss. Joe loses again, so he's 0 for right now. And Jeff is any given Sunday is going to get another win, beating Steve in the process. So I lost to Steve, I think, last week. I lost to Wilson bad, and then beat Manny, beat Matt, barely beat Jeff, and then got killed by Steve week 1. So it's been a feast or famine for me this year. And it's more famine this week. Yeah, next week's matchup is with all the buys going on with the injuries. It's going to make it it'll make it interesting for sure. I think Joe will finally get off the schneid as long as he's checking his team. Yeah, so Luke is probably going to get to 6-0 more than likely. Vic and Wilson will be playing each other. So that'll be it is a good week to schedule the rivalry week there for sure. Hopefully, I can actually put up a fight. I'll take putting up a fight. Don't want to get run out the door. That would be a novel concept. Leaving Minshew on the bench would be nice. I've got Anthony Richardson there on the bench. Holder is likely to miss the rest of the year, so there you go. So Indianapolis is fucked. That was reported a half hour ago. Anthony Richardson likely to miss the rest of the year. This seems to confirm suspicions that the electric rookie was considering. So that's done. So now, that's that. So that means Gardner Minshew will be playing the rest of the year, which means if you have Indianapolis Colts on your fantasy team, then it'll be a lot of garbage time production, but not a lot of actual production. So we'll see what happens with that. Yeah, I mean, I'm losing in my league badly. In the one I'm lost in, I'm losing every league that I'm in. Sans one, I think I've lost this week, so I'm 1-3, which is not great. But I also look at it in the sense then, if the Niners are winning and they're competitive, then I can deal with the fact that I'm losing in fantasy. So we'll see what happens with that as we go along. All right, so let's move forward to the roundup here, and first things first will be the Petit Le Mans season, WeatherTech Sports Car Championship season finale. I mentioned earlier, the Wheel and Engineering Cadillac gets the points championship, but the team that wins the race was Meyer Shank Racing. Last race for them, at least for now, in the GTP category. Acura's going to take that car and bring it over to Wayne Taylor Andretti. Bloomquist, Colin Braun finished the race there, beat 0-1 Cadillac by just under half a second there, which was under yellow actually. They finished under yellow because of a wreck or fire, I think, for the 16 car. So Blomqvist, Colin Braun, Elio Castroneves get the victory over Sebastian Bourdais, Renger van der Zande, Scott Dixon, Harry Tinknell, Jimmy Bruni, and Neil Ianni for Proton competition. Porsche lead 3 Porsches, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. The 7 Penske Porsche, Matt Campbell, Felipe Nasr, and Joseph Newgarden. And then Vanderhelm, Mike Rockenfeller, and Jensen Button finish 5th, the JDC Miller Porsche. Durrani, Sims, Aiken, Wheel and Engineering Cadillac finishes 6th. Then you have the BMWs, the 25 and the 24 round out the GTP classified lead lap cars. The LMP2 category was won by CrowdStrike Racing, by APR, George Kurtz, Ben Hanley, and Nolan Siegel. And George Kurtz wins the Jim Truman Award, so they'll be going to Le Mans next year. They were in a battle with the 18 car of Era Motorsports, which was driven by Indy Next champion Christian Rasmussen, Dwight Merriman, Ryan DL. Rasmussen was running up front and running really fast, but then crashed in the S's and knocked themselves out of the race with 16, 17 minutes to go. You have the TDS Racing 35, Falb, Gita Vandergarter, Pearson, second. The PR1 Matheson, 52, Ben Keating, Shateen, and Quinn finished third and won the championship. So that's LMP2. In LMP3, Dickerson, Garg, and Grist, JR3 Racing in their last race as a team in terms of racing in this category. They're going to be housing the Corvette Racing team next year. They win LMP3. Fidani, Bell, and Kern for AWA. Second, Gar Robinson, Felipe Fraga, and Burdon finished third. Robinson wins the Drivers' Championship. That was already solidified earlier in the day, or I think prior to this race. Daniel Juncadella, Jules Gounon, and Mauro Engel for WeatherTech Racing Mercedes gets bookend victories. They won the Daytona 24 Hours in GT Pro. They go and win the category again at Petit Le Mans over Klaus Bachler, Patrick Pilet, Kevin Estra, the Pfaff Motorsports Porsche. Last race, the Pfaff will be running with Porsches. They'll be running McLarens next year in GT Pro. And then third place was Alexander Perguidi, Daniel Serra, David Rigo, and Risi Competizione Ferrari. They were actually third, fourth, fifth, sixth in GT. The GTD podium were sandwiched in between the second and third place finisher Misha Goikberg, Spinelli, Liddy, the Forte Racing Lamborghini gets the victory over Patrick Gallagher, Robbie Foley, and Michael Dynan, the Turner Motorsports BMW. Bryn Jofferson, Trent Hinman, and Root for Wright Motorsports, the second Wright Motorsports Porsche, finished third while their main car caught on fire. So yeah, there was issues. The Andretti Autosport Ligier, 85 laps. Last race for them in LMP3. Inception Racing McLaren only ran 44 laps. So you look at that. The 10, of course, got knocked out with less than an hour, or a little over an hour to go. Ricky Taylor, Philippe Albuquerque, Louis Delatraz. Louis Delatraz, of course, will be driving the second Acura for Wayne Taylor Andretti next year with Jordan Taylor. But crashed trying to pass Pippo Durrani there. The Iron Lynx 63 was involved in late race incident that also took out the Wright Motorsports Porsche. Bertolotti, Pepper, and Pereira, they were on the way to possibly winning the GT Pro class, so that was bad news for them. Hardwick, Robichon, and Halen, the Wright Motorsports Porsche 16 car. Halen had to put the fire out himself. Amongst all there's issues for the other Porsche. For Penske, early in the day, knocked them out of championship contention. Hawksworth, Barnicoat, and Kirkwood. Barnicoat crashed turning onto the back straightaway around 4 hours into the race. They had already locked up the championship, but didn't have a chance to win that race as well. So amongst the people that were knocked out. In terms of the points, Sims and Durrani win by 21 over Albuquerque and Taylor, the Wayne Taylor Acura, and by 22 over the Meyer Shank guys, who lost 200 points with the penalty that they got at the Rolex 24 with the tire pressure penalty that they had there. So they would have won this championship going away if they had actually had their regular points haul. Nazar and Campbell fourth, and Jaminet and Tandy all round. They're all tied actually at 26.91. So that's interesting how that all worked out. And then Connor D. Filippi, Nick Yellow-Lee, sixth, Renger van der Zande, Sebastian Bourdais, and then Augusto Farfus, Philip Bang round out the guys that were all running the whole season there. In GTP, and then GTP teams, same thing, the Wheel and Engineering. Cadillac over the 10, the 60, 6, 7, 25, 0, 1, 24. And then Cadillac wins the Manufacturers Championship over Porsche and Acura. Ben Keating, Paul-Loup Chatin wins the Drivers LMP2 Drivers Championship over Ben Hanley and George Kurtz, and then Mikkel Jensen, Stephen Thomas. And then PR1 Matheson wins the LMP2 teams over CrowdStrike Racing by APR. And then the two TDS racing cars. Gar Robinson wins the Drivers' Championship over Garrett Grist, Matthew Bell, Fidani, Mantella, and Wayne Boyd. And then the Riley 74 wins over the JR3 Racing. And then the two AWAs. Ben Barnicoat and Jack Hawksworth wins. They had already locked up GTD Pro over Juncadella and Jewel Gunan. And then Antonio Garcia and Jordan Taylor third by a point over Klaus Bachler, Patrick Pile. And Alex Riberos, Ross Gunn round out the top five. And so that's it. The 14, 79, 3, 9, and 23. And GTD, and then Lexus won the Manufacturers Championship over Mercedes, Chevy, Corvette, Porsche, Aston Martin. And Sellers and Snow won GTD for Paul Miller, BMW, over Marcos Sorensen, Roman DeAngelis, Aaron Telitz, Frankie Montecalvo, Patrick Gallagher, Robbie Foley, Laura Spinelli, and Misha Goikberg round out the top five. And then Brendan Rebe and Frederick Schandorf, they fell out of the race early on Saturday and knocked them down. Grenier and Michael Skeen, et cetera, et cetera. So go through all that. So the Paul Miller Racing won BMW over the Harder Racing Aston, Vassar Sullivan Lexus, Turner Motorsport BMW, Forte Racing Lamborghini, Inception Racing McLaren, Korthoff Motorsport Mercedes, the Wright Motorsports Porsche, Kelly Moss with Riley Porsche, and then Windward Racing Mercedes rounding out the top 10. And then in the Michelin Endurance Cup GT Drivers, the 31 wins that championship as well over the 0-1 for Ganassi. And then Philippe, that was Renger van der Zande, Sebastian Bourdais. Dixon third. It says third by himself, but it really isn't. He's tied. That would be third with all the Lexus, the Acura, Wayne Taylor Acura guys there in third. And then so that's incorrect. And then 0-1 to 10, 7-25, and Cadillac wins that. Ben Hanley, George Kurtz win the Michelin Endurance Cup for LMP2 drivers over Quinn and Kading and Paul-Loup Chatin. And then Mikkel Jensen, Scott Huffaker, and Stephen Thomas there. So the 0-4 for over the 52 and the 11. Then Fraga, Gar Robinson, Burdon finished first there. Dickerson, Mantella, Verone, Wayne Boyd. So the 74 over the 17 to 13 in LMP3. Juncadella, Jules Gounon finished first in the GT Pro over, and then Mauro Engel is their third driver. Antonio Garcia, Jordan Taylor, then Ben Barnico, Jack Hawksworth, Bachler, and Pile. It'll be the 79 over the 3, the 14, the 9, and 23. And then in Mercedes wins the manufacturers for GT Pro. And then for GT Daytona drivers, Kenton Koch, Mikel Grenier, and Mike Skeen win the Endurance Cup so that's good for them. For the Inception Mercedes team, Ian James, Marco Sorensen, Roman DeAngelis, the Heart of Racing Aston, Mike Dinan, Gallagher, and Robbie Foley third. And a bunch of these drivers. So the Korthoff Racing, my fault. Mercedes, Heart of Racing, Aston, Paul Turner Motorsports 96, Paul Miller Racing, BMW finished tied their third and fourth. Windward Racing, Mercedes round out the top 5, and Mercedes gets the GTD manufacturer's title by 2 over BMW. Lot to take in there. We'll move on to the NHRA at Dallas this past weekend, and I mentioned that the TSR duo of Leah Pruitt and Matt Hagan won in Nitro. The Maggot, Moron, Erica Enders won in Pro Stock, and Gage Herrera gets one step closer to a Pro Stock motorcycle title, bringing it back to the days of Dave Schultz, John Myers, Angel Sampey, you name it, when there's domination. Matt Smith, I mean, it's crazy how Matt Hines, Andrew Hines, Craywick, absolute destruction by Gage Herrera. So we'll get into the ladders here for Top Fuel. Leah Pruitt came from the 7th spot to win over Steve Torrance. She beat Sean Langdon, Doug Coletta, and Clay Milliken on her way to the finals. Steve Torrance from the number 1 spot beat Buddy Hull, Antron Brown, and his dad Billy in the semifinals. And then Torrance set the low ET of the race as well. In Funny Car, Matt Hagan started 5th, beat Paul Lee, Alex Laughlin, Tim Wilkerson on his way to the final, then beat John Force in the final. Force started in the number 2 spot, beat Jeff Deal, Cruz Pentragon for the 973rd time they raced each other. J.R. Todd on his way to the final there. Low ET was John Force. Top speed was Matt Hagan, 332.25. In Pro Stock, Eric Enders started in the 3 spot, beat Eric Latino, Christian Quadra, Troy Coughlin Jr. on her way to the final. Dallas Glenn, who she beat Dallas Glenn. Glenn was started from the 5 spot, beat Bo Butner, Camry Caruso, one of his teammates, and Aaron Stanfield, who didn't even run. And then on his way to the final, Greg Anderson got knocked out by Aaron Stanfield. Anders had low ET, best reaction time. Top speed was Troy Coughlin Jr. Pro Stock Motorcycle, Gage Herrera started in the number 1 spot, beats Blaine Hale in the first round, gets a single in the second round, beats Hector Rana Jr., and then Eddie Krawick and Gage Herrera. I don't know. It doesn't show any laps there, so I don't know if there was something that went wrong there. Detailed results in. So yeah, it shows. So Gage Herrera won with a 664 at 203.3 over Eddie Krawick with a 670 at 202.56. So so we'll go through that. So Jags, alcohol, dragster. That's Mike Coughlin, Sean Cowie. So yeah, in first round, so it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So Jags alcohol, so that's a different top alcohol dragster. And Julie Naddis gets the victory. Tony Stewart won in round 1. Naddis beat Joey Severance. And Matt Sackman, Sean Cowie, Angel Sampay beat Mike Coughlin there in the first round. And then in second round action, Tony Stewart lost to Angel Sampay and Lane Choice Wolf in the semifinals. And then in the semifinals, Kurt Wolf won over Angel Sampay, and Julie Naddis beat Sean Cowie for the first time ever. A great time for her to do that. The standings. Leah Pruitt goes to Las Vegas with a 4-point lead over Doug Coletta, 13-point lead on Steve Torrance. That's essentially where the battle is at for the championship. Matt Hagan has a 36-point lead over Bob Tasca, 69 over Robert Height, 69! And 99 over Ron Capps. Interesting, since Ronnie, the limo driver, got married this past weekend. And you got guys like Capps there, who would have been at the wedding, but he was busy. Kurt Busch was at that wedding along with Shannon Spake and Kelly Stavist, amongst a lot of other Hollywood and famous types. In Pro Stock, Enders has an 85-point lead over Anderson, 93 over Glenn. And Herrera leads by a lot over Krawick. Matt Smith is third, Hector Arana is fourth. So that's what is going on there. In Lucas Oil drag racing, Naddis right now leads by 40, or was it 60, 71 plus 76 or 75 points over Tony Stewart. She's run one less national event this year, and they've run the same number of divisional rounds. So if Tony wants to win, he's going to have to pick up a couple of W's here as soon as possible. That's really where he's at. The only way he's going to get the top alcohol dragster title, Lucas Oil National Championship. So each driver is able, first 5 regional, first 10 national drivers. Drivers best 3 regional, best 7 national finishes from their eligible points earnings constitute their Lucas Oil National Championship points total. So that'll see what happens with that. Tony's up against it in regards to that. MotoGP and Moto2 raced in Indonesia this past weekend, and we'll be racing at Phillip Island this coming weekend. As I mentioned, Pecco Bagnaia gets the victory. huge victory after what had been a rough weekend leading up to that, and then crashing in India previous race and losing the sprint to Jorge Martin. Bagnaia over Vinales, Fabio Quartararo, DG Antonio, Bezecchi, the top 5, Binder, Jack Miller, Bastianini, Rins, and Alicia Spargaro round out the top 10. Only 14 classified riders at the end of the race. Jorge Martin out, along with Zarco, Mir, Marc Marquez, Augusto Fernandez, Luca Marini, and Pol Espargaro. Session results. So then the standings leading into Phillip Island. Bagnaia leads by 18 points. Leads Martin by 18 points. Bezecchi solidly in third. Binder more or less solidly in fourth. Espargaro and Vinales, the Aprilia teammates, separated by 12 points for fifth. Johan Zarco is in that mix as well, 15 points behind Espargaro. Marini, Miller, and Quartararo round out the top 10. So in MotoGP standings, in Moto 2, Pedro Acosta gets yet another victory over Aaron Canet, Aldeguer, Jake Dixon, Gonzalez, Tony Arbolino, Chantra, Sergio Garcia, Joe Roberts finishes 9th, and Sam Lowes rounds out the top 10. The standings heading to Phillip Island for Moto 2 is Pedro Acosta leads by 65 points over Tony Arbolino. Jake Dixon is 105 points back in third. Aaron Canet fourth. Chantra fifth. And right now, we go slide back to Roberts is in 14th place. He'd need to win a bunch to get himself into the top 10. Right now, he's 13 points out of behind Sam Lowes and 17 behind Sergio Garcia in 12th. He was the only American rider this past weekend. Sean Dillon Kelly is out of a ride, so that's that. We'll see how everything goes there. And then, all right, so F1 Academy, coming back to that, it's been a while for them. They haven't raced the F1 Academy since the summer, so they'll be back for their final race weekend at Circuit of the Americas. After they haven't raced since the end of July. Marta Garcia has led the points for a good amount of the season. She has a 48-point lead on Lena Buhler and Hamda Al-Kabasi, and Neri Marti's fourth and Abby Pulling fifth. Amna Al-Kabasi sixth. Bustamante, Dehus, Edgar, and Lovin Foss and Schreiner round out the drivers that had put up some level of points there. F1 Academy collaborate with Champions of the Future on Global Karting Series. Now there's that, so we'll see what happens. The long layoff, if it affects anybody there. In British Touring Car Championship, saw Ash Sutton win a fourth British Touring Car Championship. His 6 pole positions, 12 race wins, first driver claim title in both rear wheel and front wheel drive machinery. Interesting. Youngest driver to win 4 championships, so 2 wins around 11. Driver previous James Thompson, 12 wins is Alan Menu, Sutton, Andy Rouse, and Colin Turkington. All right, so yeah, so pretty big deal. Outgoing champion Tom Ingram is so credit to Ash Sutton in winning the championship there for the Napa team. I'm trying to see what manufacturer. I think he was a BMW driver. I think, Ash Sutton over Tom Ingram, Jake Hill, Colin Turkington, and Josh Cook. And then in some drivers, teams, trying to get Napa Racing UK, which is, they give you the side profile, and then can't see what car it is. I don't know. Whatever. So credit to him winning the championship, going 4-time series champion, and that. So BMW. So I think Toyota. You had Bristol Street Motors. That's a BMW team there. BMW. Can't really tell what any of these cars are. So the Napa team is Ford. All right. And then the Starline Racing is Honda. Toyota's what they are there. So then you have BMWs, Hondas, Toyotas, and sure what that is. You can't see what they're showing here. It's a bad website. All right. Leave that alone. All right. So they have, in terms of other news, Corey Heim is going to stay with Tricon Garage for next year in the Truck Series, no matter what happens if he wins a championship. Louis Foster is going to stay with Andretti Global for Indy next. John Hunter Nemechek we're going to talk about here. He's going to be running double duty this weekend, running for Legacy.
42
at Homestead. 42 car.
Which significant.
So we'll talk about that momentarily. And then landing partner role for F1 at Las Vegas AMX. Big story from the weekend at Road Atlanta sees Robbie Wickens win the TCR championship with his co-driver Harry Gottsacker for Brian Hurd Autosport, and Hyundai gets the driver championship with they share the drivers championship in that category. He's been racing for them for the last few years, 5 years after his life-changing wreck at Pocono Raceway. Robbie Wickens is a champion in TCR, which is huge thing to hear and to see for a guy who's battled through so much and what he's gone through and for his family and everything. So it's amazing feat, amazing for the family, for his family, everything. One of the great stories in motorsport, honestly, to see Robbie Wickens get that championship in TCR in the Michelin Pilot Challenge. So that's it's really, really cool to see if Christina, to see that happen. and for one of the great people in racing too, no less. So that's pretty awesome. All right, so let's move forward from that. I mentioned that for British Touring Cars, talked about other races. So Robbie Wickens. So let's put that in there. Robbie Wickens, co-driver, and TCR Championship in Michelin Pilot Challenge. All right, so we'll move forward to the U.S. Grand Prix at Circuit of the Americas this coming weekend. Another sprint weekend. Target podium return and awesome admitted key worry against Red Bull and McLaren. So yeah, Mercedes is gonna bring an upgrade, and they're trying to target a podium, but would think it'll be pretty difficult to do that either way. But we will see what happens. Let's go back to the picks out of curiosity. So it's an hour and hour and 36. So picks from last week. Josh, you went first, so I'll go first for Formula One. So F1 US Grand Prix. Fish Lips wins the race over Oscar Piastri and the Smooth Operator. And then in the sprint, I'm going to pick Piastri to win another one. Sprint over Fish Lips and Norris. Those are my picks for the U.S. Grand Prix. I think the Mercedes do fare better than they have in recent races. I do think Lewis gets top fives in both the sprint and in the race itself at one of his best racetracks. What say you, Josh?
Well, obviously we're going to go ahead and pick Max Verstappen to win the United States Grand Prix. But, behind him, I'm going to say Lando Norris finished his second. You picked his teammate Piastri, so I'll just go with Lando here, the other McLaren car driver. So pick that, and I'll pick I'm actually going to go opposite here of you on teammates. Excuse me. I'll pick Charles Leclerc to finish third here, who last year finished third in this race at the USGP. So, and actually led one lap there. So, that should be interesting, I guess. And of course, the sprint race, you pick Piastri. Well, I'm just going to pick Verstappen to win the sprint race over Lando and Piastri. So Verstappen takes home both sprint and the USGP this weekend.
All right, pretty straightforward there. For Formula One, they'll be racing 3 consecutive weeks. They'll be racing this week at COTA, next week at Mexico Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, and then they'll be racing the Brazilian Grand Prix. So triple header here, and then they'll take 2 weeks off and race the first time since 1982 they'll be racing the Las Vegas Grand Prix, and that'll be a back-to-back to end the season with Las Vegas and Abu Dhabi. We'll move to the trucks to start the previews for Homestead. There will be 35. Right now, there's 35 trucks for 36 spots. So somebody will show up and fill that spot to take the purse money and all that. I think we mentioned that Matt Mills is going to be driving the 42 for Nice next year. So that's a big deal for him to get into a top flight ride. Hocevar moving over to 77 for Spire. Marco Andretti will be driving for Spire in the last 2 races in the Truck Series season. And then also Corey Heim will be back. So 36. I figure somebody else is going to show up to run a start and park, maybe Jennifer Hocobb or something. Nobody listed in the 02 as of now. Nobody listed in the 20 or the 25 for that matter. You don't even have a full field. You don't have 3 drivers listed for trucks, 2 for Youngs and 1 for Rackley War. Nick Sanchez, of course, driving on a home game, coming back from a few weeks ago when Matt Crafton punched him. Spencer Davis in a 04 for Roper Racing, then Chase Purdy, Dean Thompson. We're going through all these drivers. Marco Andretti was running for Spire, trying to go through some of these other people. Anything. Maggio driving the 22. Jonathan Schaefer driving the 30. Memphis Villarreal driving for Rayum. Bailey Curry in the 41. And Jack Wood again in the 51. Tyler Hill in the 56 for the family team. Jake Drew back in the 61 for Torrey. And then Armani Williams driving for G2G in that rent-a-wreck. So, Josh, you get first choice here on the Truck Series side for who do you look at to win and wild card.
Yeah, so I think this weekend, I'm going to go with Carson Hocevar winning the truck race this weekend to lock himself in to the Final Four. He's had a good truck race season so far this year, and I think he's clearly established himself as one of the favorites for this title. So I'm going to go ahead and lock him in as my pick. And then wild card this weekend, go with Old Reliable and Roger Caruth this weekend. He's been pretty reliable here in the mile and a halves, and I think he's had some good runs in the mile and a half tracks this year. So look at his run at Charlotte. Kind of a similar worn down pavement track compared to Homestead, one that you're going to be running the top a bunch. So I think he can definitely have a shot there. So we'll see how it goes this weekend, but should be interesting this weekend with it being an elimination race, although I don't think anybody even knows that it's an elimination race because it's the Truck Series, but it is indeed an elimination race, and there is a bit of a logjam here between 4th and 6th place in the standings here with 5 points of separation between Sanchez, Enfinger, and Rhodes. So we'll see how that trio of drivers who ends up filling in that 4th slot here this weekend. So that should be an interesting battle to watch throughout the race on Saturday.
Yeah, and it's a good point you bring up that because the Truck Series has been their way their schedule is and the way they're presented on TV, you would know that they're going into an elimination race. Corey Haim won the first race of their play that second round to lock himself in to the championship for what was this back at Bristol all the way in the middle of a month ago, and then they ran Talladega 2 weeks later, and they've had 2 weeks off. Going to race this coming weekend. They have another week off before they go to Phoenix. So, and there was a non-playoff winner, non-regular won the last race at Talladega. So as it stands, there's a pretty good chance. Math-wise, there's going to be two drivers make it in on points. Now, you consider the separation between Christian Eckes, Josh mentioned it, with Sanchez, Enfinger, and Rhodes, but it include Eckes in it. There's only 11 points separating those four drivers, and two of those drivers are going to make probably two of the five that are up there are probably going to make the with Hocevar as well are going to make the final round. So who those will be, definitely to be determined. In that vein, I am going to go with. I keep on doing this. I think it's similar to what I do on the Grid Talk when I pick Logan Sargent to score points. I think, but there's a higher likelihood of this coming off. I think Nick Sanchez gets the victory at home. Would be great to see after what was a pretty bad situation for him a couple of weeks ago. Comes back, races at Homestead. We don't know what his situation is for next year in the Truck Series or what's going on. But Nick Sanchez to win and lock into Final Four, and then in terms of a wild card, for me will be it's kind of tough to make a wild card pick, but we will go with guess we'll go with Taylor Gray. Yeah, so we'll go with Taylor Gray. Taylor Gray is wild card. And then I guess for me, who do I look at to make obviously Corey Haim is in. I say Nick Sanchez makes it in with a victory. And then Carson Hocevar, I don't see any changes there. I see Carson Hocevar and Christian Eckes also advancing to Phoenix in a couple of weeks' time. So I don't see any changes coming from that. Josh, you put Carson Hocevar in to win. So that means he would end up being, so he ends up in there along with Corey Haim. Do you see any changes in regards to who else would make it into the Final Four?
I think it'll definitely stay the same between how the four drivers are, and I don't think Enfinger will be able to make it in. And I don't think Rhodes has enough speed compared to any of the top four to try to make it in.
All right. So we'll say that the final four, the current final four stays the same. Just go and put that in. Eckes, Sanchez, stay as is, going to Phoenix. Our final four, no changes. And final four from pre-Homestead. And then no changes in final four from pre-Homestead. Alrighty. And then, Josh, and then, no, I messed that up, but I'll edit that shortly. XFinity at Homestead, 2 races to go for them in this round. The contender Boats 300 has, what is it? They say 40. They're saying 3 vehicles are going to miss the show, but so 41 for 38. Dale Earnhardt Jr. Junebug is going to be back for his second race of 2023. No Neck will be racing in the Carl Long MBM 66. Matt Mills is running double duty, driving for Emerling Gase. Now you got, I don't know how many RSS cars are out there this weekend. Was it 1, 2, 3, 4 RSS cars are going to be out there. And no Joe Graff Jr. I guess whoever runs the RSS racing social media, I think, napalmed him last week on the socials, so that might be was a lead into what was going to happen, which I guess is not having a job anymore. They have Mason Maggio racing the 29 car, so they're going to have to make the race on speed. With that vehicle, Dawson Cram, former guest of the show, will be in the 74 again. Go through some of these other. Kyle Sieg will be in the 38. So there you go. So I guess he doesn't have a job. I figure he'll probably be in the Emerling Gase 35 because they don't have anybody announced as of now. So that's for trucks. And CJ, so JJ Illy in the 4, Natalie Decker, that empty head, is in the 07. Says Myatt Snyder in the 19. Derek Krause will be in the 11. Connor Mozak, Maggio, McLaughlin, Kyle Siegel driving for RSS. Earnhardt, Leland Honeyman, and the Alpha Prime. So and Kyle Weatherman will drive in the 91 for DGM. We'll see who makes the show. I mean, obviously, Junior wants to make the show on. Wants to put himself in position to make the show on time. It looks like the Chargers have scored a touchdown. Chargers have scored a touchdown, so to number 7, whoever.
Gerald Everett.
That's what. So thank you. And so big score there. Chargers, I think, are up 10 points.
It's a tie game.
Oh, it is a tie game. All right. Well, 17 all. All right. Oh, so why not have overtime on Monday Night Football? That'd be great. I'll go first for the Xfinity race, and I will pick John Hunter Nemechek. It's the low-hanging fruit on that one. And and lock himself into the Final Four. And then I'll pick Retzloff as my wild card pick. How about you, Josh?
I'm gonna go, since you picked John Hunter Nemechek, I'm gonna go the opposite and go Austin Hill to win the race, and then of course Mr. Ralph Dale Earnhardt Jr. to be the wild card this weekend. So he ran good at Homestead back in June 2020, and I think he finished top 5 or top 10. So he's got a good shot here to have another good run, and probably hopefully the car doesn't catch on fire this time around. So We'll see how that goes. But yeah, it should be a good one this weekend. Homestead's a good track for the Xfinity series in general with the way it drives.
Yeah, and I think Junior would feel a lot more comfortable this week after having that race. After he got the race at Bristol and ran as competitively as he did. So I think he stands a better chance of running well this weekend. He'll get a more representative practice than what you get from running at Bristol, honestly. And fine, just give me a second here. From Homestead. All right, so amended that. So we will go to Cup at Homestead, and Josh will be the first to choose for the Cup at Homestead. Mention John Hunter. You had something on the team had previously announced that Hocevar will still drive for at Martinsville and Phoenix. So, I mean, we can go and listen. Did you hear Jimmy's? I
saw his announcement that they're putting John Hunter in for this race. I was only saying it's significant because it's the 42, and Joe Nemechek drove the 42 back in the day, and they have history at Homestead as well. So
with John Hunter and John Hunter being named after his uncle, late uncle John Nemechek, who passed away at Homestead in a truck series accident. Yeah, it's very true. And Joe Nemechek has had good runs there over the years, especially in the Busch series. So there's a lot of significance there for sure. Good point on that. So, and also he's going to be driving the 42 car next year in the Cup Series full time. So that'll be that. It's the Forever 400 presented by Mobile One. Mobile One, of course, sponsor for Kevin Harvick, and that's the tour is the Forever Tour. So 9 years ago, he won his championship at this race and at this racetrack. And that was one of the first, I think may have been the first year of the Final Four, the elimination format playoff.
Yeah, that was.
So that was significant there. He will also be running a throwback to the Budweiser car that he ran back then. Of course, it'll be a Ford this year instead of a Chevy. So that'll be interesting. It'll be cool. It's a cool looking throwback. I bet it'll be one of the better diecasts that sells all year. Ross Chastain racing with Kubota this weekend. Austin Gumby Simjerk with Freightliner. Bass Pro for Bald Spot. Dylan mentioned Budweiser for Kevin Harvick. Larson's usual. Build Submarines for Keselowski. Gainbridge for LaJoy. 3 Chi for Kyle Busch. Hooters for William Clyde Elliott II. Back to Smithfield for Almirola for a home game for him. Sport Clips for Hamlin. Menards and Duracell for Blaney. Magical Vacation Planner for Chase Briscoe. No sponsor listed for Yaley. AJ Allmendinger Campers in RV. Chris Buescher of Fastenal. Bass Pro for Martin Truex Jr. Ream for Christopher Bell. Dex Imaging for Harrison Burton. Shell Pennzoil back on for Logano. McDonald's for Bubba. Liberty for Byron. Leaf Filter Gutter Protection for Haley. Loves and Fleet Guard for McDowell. Gilliland with Serial 1 e-bikes. Ryan Priest's United Rentals. The Maury Gallagher sponsors for John Hunter and Eric Jones. McDonald's will also be on the 45 for Tyler Reddick. Richard, Boost by Kroger and Vitamin Water. Alex Bowman, Ally, Coker's Garage. No Neck will be running double duty, driving the 51 as well for Rick Ware. Monster Energy for Keebler. Ray's Shot Focus for Ty Dillon. Josh Balicki in the 78. And then Freeway.com for Daniel Suarez. Get first dibs, Josh, on who will somebody advance their way into the Final Four, or will it be a non-playoff driver?
No, I'm going to go ahead and pick Christopher Bell to win. I think he's kind of seething after that last run at Las Vegas, and he's really gotten mile and a halves this year. And, I think the mile and a halves in general have been good for Toyotas. I think this is a track that definitely favors his driving style. So I think Christopher Bell locks his way in from 5th place, which would potentially bump out Denny Hamlin out of this, but he locks his way into the Final Four. And then wild card this weekend. Wild card this weekend. It's a bit tough because we're down to the last bit in the standings here, but there's a lot that you can go here. I'll pick Daniel Suarez. Why not? He needs a really good run. And Mr. 305, of course, from Miami. So he needs a good run for the co-owner of his team and everything. So yeah, we'll go with that.
Mr. 305, Mr. Worldwide. Daniel Suarez, see if he can go and do that for Dottie. For Pitbull, for Armando, as co-owner there at the home game for the co-owner of Trackhouse Racing. I will go and pick. This is a little more. I mean, I think I picked last week here. Who did I pick last week? I picked Reddick last week to win, and he didn't get it. And Josh, you picked William Byron, and those are probably the two people that make the most sense to me. I'm doing this begrudgingly. I am going to pick William Byron to win what would be his 7th win of 2023 and lock himself into the Final Four. Byron to win and lock into Final Four. And the wild card, I'm going to do it. It's not you could call it a homer thing. It's not based on performance. Chase Briscoe, it's one of his better racetracks. He's won there in Xfinity. I'm sure he's looked forward to this race. I mean, I went against my judgment with picking Reddick. I picked Reddick last week. You know what? I'm an audible. I'm gonna go Reddick, Tyler Reddick to win and lock into Final Four, and then Briscoe wild card stays because it's one of his best racetracks. He qualified halfway decent, but then the car was dog crap in the race, so we'll see what happens with that at Homestead. So let's move forward into the sim segment. Josh, let us know what's going on in iRacing and in gaming this week.
Yeah, of course. I mean, this week iRacing, we've got the all three truck XFinity Cup Series racing at the Homestead Miami Speedway this weekend, so there'll be plenty of opportunity to run the fence, in any of these cars. Which actually, my experience in iRacing running the fence at Homestead hasn't really worked out the way I thought it would. For some reason, I guess at least the setups that they give out on the fixed series end up lending to the bottom or the middle working out better than the top. But I suppose if we had a longer run, maybe the top would come in there. So we'll see how that works out. But I got that. The Legends Series 87 cars running at North Wilkesboro, so that should be kind of interesting with those cars. Indy cars are at Chicagoland this weekend. Gen 4 cars at Nashville this weekend. Of course, still got the what you can call it, the Draft Master Series now at Talladega. So that should be interesting. Running at that with unrestricted cars. So looking forward to running some of those as I have been doing the last couple of weeks. Running on that. Let's see, on the oval side, what else we got here? Home, all these are all fixed setup races. So let me put it back to open to see which cars are running for Draft Master Series. Draft Master, still running. Week 6 with the schedule at actually at Daytona still, which I think it's in the next gen car this week, and then they switch over to Talladega and then run the same cars that they've been running there. So the setups that I've been using for that one have been for Talladega, but slightly modified, changing just the gearing and the downforce for Daytona, a little bit more handling than Talladega. So we'll see how that goes this week, and then Talladega next week should be plenty fast there. And then on the road side, pulling up those races, going on the road end, all of them. At that, pulling up this. Got GT3s at Road America, Formula Fords at Lime Rock Park, Toyota GR Series at VIR, Virginia International Raceway. Got Ferrari GT3s at Summit Point Raceway, the Mustang Skip Barber Series at Silverstone National Circuit Layout, the iRacing IMSA Fixed Series at Le Mans, the Circuit 24 Hours Le Mans, Circuit Le Sarthe. That's a fixed series, I think, running for like 35 minutes. So just a short sprint race there at Circuit Le Sarthe. Stock Car Brazil at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Got USF 2000s and Indy Pro 2000s at Oran Park here. LMP2s also at Circuit Le Sarthe there. Let's see what else. Formula 4 at Suzuka Grand Prix circuit. Then you've got the looking at the Formula One, so their version of the Formula One series, the Grand Prix series, running at Circuit of the Americas, a 14-lap sprint race there, so might be more entertaining than actual F1 race for sure. Pulling up, trying to see more of what's available on the schedule here. Open series. Yeah, that. Got the Skip Barber series at Silverstone, Supercars, the Aussie V8 Supercars at Laguna Seca, Production Lab Sim Cars at Virginia International Raceway, Falcon Tire GT4s at Circuit of the Americas, also Grand Prix Legends running at the Milwaukee Mile, so the old style Formula One cars from the 60s running in Milwaukee Mile, kind of throwback to the old days in USAC before kart. Got the GT Thrustmaster Challenge at Daytona Road Course. IndyCar Open Wheel B running at Talladega this weekend. So that'll be a disaster probably. And I don't think anybody would run that one because nobody has entered in that one right now is what I'm looking at. Although that starts at midnight tonight. That session. Open Wheel C also at Oran Park. So, so plenty of opportunity as always on iRacing. We saw the announcement for last week, the NASCAR console game partnership with iRacing. Looks like they're beginning to put out some surveys on what they want for the series for that game. So probably have to look at that survey and see what kind of questions they're answering. And see, what kind of direction that this might go in. But, still that's a very exciting announcement, of course, there. And looking at the iRacing official news here, what else is happening as far as special events or anything like that? I don't think there's really anything here currently right now in terms of official news from iRacing, but of course, plenty of content across the board with the recent announcement there with NASCAR, and then of course the regular scheduled iRacing races on the service. So yeah, that's all for sim racing this week. Of course, follow on Twitch at USailor2, where we can, if we go live, which maybe we'll go live for some Homestead racing this weekend or throughout the week, we'll go live for that. Let's see, the Twitter at JP Huffine, which of course go on there and see what I have to say, of course. Talking about the Jaguars as always, and any racing takes as we see. And of course, the YouTube page, Gripster Podcast YouTube, which will have all our videos up there uploaded usually by the end of the week and be up there hopefully before the races this weekend. So that's all for me this week. Of course, good win for the Jaguars this week. Glad to see them win in person as always. So good racing as well throughout the week at Las Vegas. Hopefully this weekend at Homestead, Dale Jr. puts on a good performance and he's able to finish this time, unlike Bristol, but I think he'll be definitely a lot more confident going into this weekend for sure.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. It'd be cool to see Junior win. I definitely thought he was going to win at Bristol, so it'd be good to see him win at one of his favorite racetracks for sure at Homestead Miami Speedway. And definitely check out Josh on the sim on his iRacing and his Twitch page, or any racing he does over there. And thanks as always, brother, for being my co-host and sidekick, and all the great content, great insight you bring to the table. You can find me at PG Matthew on Twitter X. You can find us at Gripster Pod on Twitter X. You can find the Gripster Podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. We're on Podbean is our host site. You can also find us at philipgmatthew.com. And we'll and we're, of course, the YouTube page with the video feed. So you can find us there. And we'll see you next week for episode 192. We'll recap Homestead, the triple header. We'll also recap the U.S. Grand Prix and F1 Academy at COTA. You got NHRA at Las Vegas. You're going to have MotoGP, et cetera, World Rally is going to be a busy weekend. Formula One will be in Mexico. A lot going on here next week or so in the world of racing as we get towards the end of the motorsports season. So we'll be back for that. Also talk about Week 7 NFL and all that's going on with that. So for Josh, I'm Phil. Thanks for listening to Gripster Podcast, and we'll see you next time.